Hey, I'm Anne, owner of Champagne and Stars Event Decor. Welcome to And I Like Large Parties. Join me as I chat with amazing women business owners in the events industry, some that I've worked with and some that I can't wait to work with. We'll be sipping cocktails while discussing their passions, hurdles, and accomplishments. You're going to love it. Thanks for listening. Okay, so I'm sitting down tonight with Miss V. She is a burlesque dancer and a pinup model. I'm so glad that you came to my house. I usually travel to see other folks, but you were willing to come to me, so I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
How was the traffic? I know it can be crazy.
It was exciting. It took about an hour and a half, even though I'm in Philly.
I know, that's a long time. Yeah, it should have been like 45 minutes on a normal night, but it's a Friday.
Yeah.
All right, so I want to start the podcast by asking you a question, and then we'll circle back to it at the end. Okay. I always like to ask my guests if they could come up with, and it can be an existing cocktail or drink, or you can create it. People do both. Some kind of a cocktail or mocktail that you feel just embodies the vibe of who you are and just what you're all about. What would that drink be? Like, what would it consist of? And if you can come up with a name for it, that would be great too. So we'll revisit that at the end.
I didn't know there was going to be a test.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just a slight one, just little. It's conversations and cocktails. So we focus a little on cocktails. Speaking of cocktails, we are having Coke. Yeah.
Refreshing.
I was telling Miss V that I had my husband go searching for Coke in the old-fashioned bottles because it's, I just thought that was like your whole vibe, so I thought it went well.
And Coke in a glass bottle is delicious, so thank you.
That's what you tell me. All right, so why don't we start with, I'd like you to explain just what is burlesque, and then you can get into how you actually got started in this aspect of, this is the entertainment industry and events industry. So how did you get there, and what is burlesque?
Okay, so starting with what is burlesque, colloquially, I like to refer to it as unnecessarily complicated stripping.
Okay.
So, and truly that's what it is. It's stripping. It's some people try to make a distinction of like club stripping and burlesque is fancy stripping. Okay. And I don't like to say that because that sort of implies that club stripping is lesser, which it's two sides of the same coin.
Okay.
It's all the same. But burlesque has its roots in Victorian theater. Okay. And it started out as sort of parody. And then it sort of came over to the States and became sort of lowbrow entertainment. And it involved not just stripping, but it involved singers, acrobats, wrestling, and usually the final act was some sort of exotic dancer. And then in the 30s and 40s, it sort of transitioned into what we're kind of more used to, which is maybe a comedic host and then some strippers doing actual peel numbers.
Okay.
And I got into it because I had been doing a lot of modeling. I always liked sort of the pinup style. And I had done a bunch of modeling. And at some point you get tired of just standing there and you kind of want to do more. So I wanted to start performing. And I was really nervous because I don't have a dance background. And a friend just sort of kicked me out of the nest. It was like, you're going to do my show and it's in like 6 months. So I just had to start like preparing something. And I started doing a lot of research and rehearsing and working on my movement and kind of working on like what my stage presence would be. And I never looked back.
And so you learn as you go, or did you take some kind of a class after that?
So I kind of learned as I went. I have since taken classes. I was really intimidated at first to actually take classes in person, which is stupid. But I didn't want people to see like how awkwardly I move because I'm actually really awkward in real life.
You would know
clumsy, and not graceful. And so my husband always laughs at me because I will get on stage and I will perform. And it takes all my concentration to be graceful for those 4 or 5 minutes. And then I get off stage and I am like running into things and clumsy and really awkward in conversation because I've like used all my grace up while I'm on stage.
You only have so much grace.
That's it. I'm done.
You're tapped out. So you mentioned your husband. Does he come to your shows?
All the time.
Okay.
Yes. He's really supportive. And it's funny because people will come up to him and sort of ask, like, is this weird for you?
Right. Yeah. What is that like?
And so he kind of loves that because he loves messing with them. And they go, usually it's women. They're like, this is so weird for you. And he's like, why? Why would it be weird? And he kind of makes a point to make them uncomfortable and kind of come out with it. It's like, well, why? Why would it be uncomfortable? Because I own her and somebody else is looking at her, or because she doesn't have agency over her own body, or because you think she's sleeping with people because she performs in this way. And then, when you kind of get at all those things, they sound ludicrous, but those are sort of the assumptions that are informing that question. And so he kind of loves to throw that back in people's faces.
Yeah. Speaking of classes, I think I saw, because, so we know each other, right? Just to give everybody a little bit of context. So I saw you, and I didn't even realize when you were wearing my champagne skirt at that Flyers event.
These are fans.
I happened to think, wait a minute. I saw you perform. So this was right before COVID. This was what? I mean, New Year's 2020.
Oh, at the Arts Condominium.
Yes, at the Arts Ballroom. And you were performing your burlesque as part of a 1920s, like Let's Ring in 2020. And I was there, right? I didn't know Adam Iezzi on Vute Entertainment. Woo woo, little shout out. I didn't know him. So when, it's just so funny because the password to get into that event was I'm with Adam. I remember that.
Of course it was.
And then, once, of course, COVID hit, we didn't know that was going to happen. But then once everything opened up, I finally got to meet him because I worked with him at the Fort Mifflin event.
Oh.
But that's kind of like how I know you and didn't realize I knew you when you were wearing the skirt at the event. Which is cool. So I follow you on, all your socials. And I think I saw that. Are you teaching a class?
Yeah.
So tell us about that.
Yeah. So I actually teach stocking peels and fan dancing, level 1 and level 2. And I know that's ironic because I told you I started out not taking classes, but I kind of learned I did essentially take classes, but they were sort of like online.
Right.
And this is really dorky, but I bought DVDs from some of my favorite big name performers that showed like fan dancing moves and boa moves and some other things. And I studied those and learned. And I've since sort of like worked out my own things. And fan dancing doesn't seem to be something that's taught a whole lot in Philadelphia. So the local Burlesque Academy, the Philadelphia Burlesque Academy, has me come in and teach that. And it's a lot of fun to get to help people get over the awkwardness of trying to dance with these giant fans and how to hold them. And you're going to hit yourself in the face, and that's okay.
So where do you think these folks are coming from? Are they like you once were? They're getting into the burlesque industry? Are they? Is this just for leisure because they want to know how to do it?
A little bit of both.
Okay.
I mean, we get a lot of women that come in that are just like, this seems like a fun thing to do for the afternoon, which is awesome. And then we get people that are like, I want to do this, and I'm going to be the next Dita Von Teese. I'm going to be a big star. And then you're like, well, maybe not. Maybe learn to be happy with just performing in a bar in Philly. But we get all sorts in classes, and that's really, really fun. And I don't know. I think it's just nice to see that burlesque is for everybody, and that there's a lot of interest, and it's a wide variety of body types, ages, genders, of people that are interested. And it's good to see that people are comfortable expressing themselves and kind of looking for that outlet.
Yeah, you mentioned, different body types. I wanted to talk about that, right? So, we live in a world where we're celebrating, self-esteem and body positivity. But then, I look at your videos and I think, oh my, like I could never get up there and do that because, I've got this hanging or this sat. So how do you must be extremely comfortable then with your body, or is that's a misconception?
No. I have all the same complaints about my body, and I look at myself and I'm very critical. But I think in some ways burlesque allows you to release that because you have to move past it. And it's not really that powerful to see somebody who looks like a model, meets all of the societal norms for beauty, standing up there and performing. It's more empowering to see somebody who is more of a regular person and is comfortable with themselves and it's, they always say fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
It really is true. If you're just like, you just get over it and get up there and enjoy yourself, people will respond to you and they'll connect to you, and nobody really cares that you have a love handle or what.
Right. What is the largest audience that you've performed for?
Probably about 1,500 people.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is, I mean, there were that event that I referenced earlier, the Arts Ball, there were quite a few people there.
Yeah.
That was a big event.
That was a big event. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've gotten to perform at some really big theaters, which is amazing. It's crazy to be on this, giant stage at a big theater and just think, wow, people came here to see me. I get to be on this stage. That's crazy.
And what are you looking at when you're up there? I used to do like, like when I was a kid, I did tap dancing. I did it for many years. I always wound up looking above the heads of the folks in the audience. Like that's how I kept my cool and, just refrain from being super nervous. What are you looking at when you're up there? Are you making eye contact with people? Is that part of it?
Contact. Yeah, absolutely. At first, I definitely was like looking at your forehead.
Yeah.
Because that was kind of intimidating.
Mm-hmm.
And I've since kind of gotten over that. And it's really powerful to stare people down. And I consider myself a funny person in real life. I try not to rely a whole lot on humor in my performance. Not to say that like comedy is easy. It's certainly not. But I try to actually be sexy. I'm like, that's to me what burlesque is. I mean, it's not the only thing burlesque is, but that's one of the things I love about it. And for some reason, people find it very intimidating if you are comfortable with yourself and you're comfortable expressing sexiness. And if you kind of stare them down while you're doing those things, they just giggle and they're like, "Oh my God, what are you doing?" So that's actually it. Like at first, it was very intimidating, and now it's kind of fun, to kind of go up to people and they're just like, "Oh my goodness, this person's coming at me!" Oh,
yeah. So you're doing classes, you're teaching classes, and you're performing at different shows, different theaters.
Yep.
What are some other events that you do?
So I produce a show called Glamorama.
Okay.
I have done it at Frankie Bradley's. I have one coming up at a different venue in September. And I also have been traveling a lot and doing a lot of festivals. I did a festival in New Orleans early this year. I did a festival in Kansas, and I actually had won their Queen competition last year.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you. I mean, it's a thing it's so silly. It's a thing we do is like we do these competitions. It's like we're all like beauty queens. But it was really fun. You get to perform with a live band, and there's sort of an improv element to it, which is a whole different level of performing and very intimidating, but also a lot of fun. And so that was one of my best burlesque memories.
So if someone's having like a large birthday party, or I don't know, it's somebody's bachelor party.
Yes.
Like, do you get hired for those kinds of events as well?
Yes, I've done several birthday parties. For some reason, I keep performing at VFWs all over. And so
you've got the pinup look.
I do. Lots of people do. A lot of burlesque performers do. So part of the reason is I have a wonderful friend, Gio Michaels, who is a very seasoned drag queen who produces a show at a VFW in media. And I'm kind of always their burlesque performer.
Okay.
And then somehow I just keep finding these other people who are members of VFWs, and they're like, my grandfather would really like a showgirl. And then I get these great requests that are like, we would like a clean showgirl. I'm like, well, what does that mean?
Right. Yeah. So I'm like that arts ballroom event. That wasn't like a corporate thing. It was a ticketed event. Are you ever hired to do anything like for a corporate event?
Yes. I have done like fundraisers for like breast cancer charities.
Okay.
But yeah, I've done corporate events. I've done things for like restaurants and bars.
Yeah.
And those are always kind of an interesting experience. Things are like, well, we'd like you to come in and do a 30-minute performance. I'm like, oh, okay. First of all, nobody wants to watch this for 30 minutes. Second of all, you don't quite know what you're asking for. But yeah, I've done a bunch of corporate events, and sometimes they're a really good time. Sometimes it's a little weird.
Yeah, I can imagine. So how many years have you been doing this?
About 8 years.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's quite a long time. Do you have any like favorite songs that you dance to that you could speak about?
I do. So the funny thing is I love this aesthetic, like with very like 40s and 50s look, but I like like synth pop and post punk and new wave music. So those are the sorts of things I tend to dance to.
Okay.
And I remember the first time I performed like what has kind of become one of my signature numbers to a song called My Favorite Color is Blue by Robert DeLong, who is a modern like electro artist. And I thought, oh, people are going to have like no clue what's going on because I'm wearing this like 40s femme fatale gown. And there's this like hardcore synth pop song playing. And everybody really responded to it because I think it was like a very like genuine self-expression. And also there is a lot of intersection between like that style of music and like noir and the 40s. Like a lot of it came from the new romanticism movement, which was informed by the glamour of the 40s and sort of grew out of glam rock. So I'm like, I'm not totally out of space.
Yeah.
And there's also an element of burlesque, like the really traditional, like Victorian burlesque that was intentionally anachronistic. So a lot of the humor was supposed to come from the idea that there'd be people in these very like period costumes, but doing very modern things. So it still sort of plays into that like very historical aspect of burlesque.
Yeah. So the costuming, very like beautiful and really elaborate. Where do you get your costuming?
I make a lot of it.
Oh, you do?
And then I'm an okay seamstress. I can sew. I've made a corset. I actually made my wedding gown, but
Wow.
I don't sew any of the gowns that you see me wearing.
Okay.
I have some amazing friends. Rob Perluso performs under the drag name Anita Manhattan. Ignatia, a really wonderful burlesque performer. They're insanely talented, and they've made me some beautiful gowns. I do a lot of the embellishment and the under things myself. And then some of it's just cobbled together.
Yeah.
You find things and you're like, I can make it look like these things were all meant to be together.
Right. So what are some of the accessories? So you mentioned what did you call that? Is it
Under
fanning?
things?
The fanning?
The fans. Okay.
Okay. So the fans, and then I know with the stockings, I've seen that.
Yes.
Where you are, I don't even know how you balance yourself, and you're pulling. I think it's like with your teeth.
Yes.
Pulling your stocking off of your leg with your teeth.
Yes.
It's amazing. So stockings, fans. What are some other accessories that are usually part of a show that you might do?
A boa, like a big feather boa. Stockings are like my signature thing. I love a stocking peel.
Stocking peel.
Yeah, I do stocking peel almost every number.
Okay.
Tassel twirling is another really big thing.
Okay.
You know, the actual like tassels on the nipples.
Yeah.
And everybody goes crazy for that. Like my husband has told me I tassel twirl too much, and I'm like, you are insane. I could tassel twirl every number and everyone would be happy.
Right. So when you are going to an event or a show, unless they stipulate we don't want you to take your top off, that's
a big finish.
It's all coming off.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So every state's blue laws are different. Philadelphia actually has pretty open blue laws.
I hadn't even thought about that.
Yeah.
I guess you would need to think about that.
You need to like cover your whole butt.
Wow.
Or you can't expose any boob or whatsoever. Philadelphia is pretty open blue laws.
Okay.
So usually we just strip down 2 pasties and a G-string.
Gotcha. Okay. You had to think about, I guess, some folks, and they could be burlesque dancers, and I'm sure, many of them are, who you feel like are an inspiration to you, or you really idolize or look up to for some reason. Who would some of those folks be?
Sure. So one of my favorites is Sally Rand. She was a fan dancer in the 30s.
Okay.
And she's really famous for performing at the World's Fair. She got arrested for being obscene because she was supposedly naked behind her giant fans. Maybe she was, maybe she wasn't.
Yeah.
That was part of the scandal. I'm very inspired by her performance style and how she moved. I'm also a big fan of Dita Von Teese. Just everything's really, really over the top.
Yeah.
And of course, I just have wonderful local friends that I admire and love so much. Dottie Riot, Goldie Fox, Sophie Sucre, Ginger Lee, like so many people that have like really mentored me and encouraged me and taught me so much. And I wouldn't be doing any of this without them.
Yeah. And so these are folks that you met once you got into the burlesque scene. Okay. So what city that you've gone to, to perform at is your favorite?
Honestly, it's probably Kansas.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I know that sounds weird.
Okay.
They have a really great scene there, and I think I've just really connected with some of the folks there. And I have an excuse to go back there. My father-in-law is from there. So my husband and I will go there. And
I'm so shocked that you said Kansas. It's not at all what I thought you were going to say.
Well, oddly enough, so I perform a lot out in Western PA in like smaller areas.
Yeah.
And sometimes the smaller towns have the absolute best performance experience because people are just hungry for live entertainment.
Okay.
Whereas in Philadelphia, everybody's seen everything. There's 9 drag shows going on that night. Nobody's all that interested in whatever it is I'm doing. So if you kind of go into the outskirts a little bit, people are like, wow, this is amazing.
Yeah.
So sometimes that's the absolute best place to go perform.
Okay. So have you ever encountered someone being inappropriate with you or, you know, you were just made to feel uncomfortable?
Yes. I was performing at a teeny tiny bar that was basically like performing down the aisle of an airplane.
Wow.
And this person tried to tip me basically by shoving $1 in my G-string up my vagina.
Oh my gosh.
And like they didn't get very far. And I definitely slapped them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was like the worst one that ever happened.
I can imagine.
For the most part, people are really cool,
Uh-huh.
and they kind of know like they're not supposed to touch you.
Yeah.
And I think I also kind of conduct myself as like, hey, this is cool, and I'm here to entertain you, and we're all having fun, but don't touch me.
Yeah.
Also, you may not want to be touched. I'm not going to touch you.
Right.
Like, and so for the most part, people are really good, but that was like the one like really bad
that's terrible.
experience I had.
What a violation. Oh my
Right?
gosh. Do you get like a lot of people trying to give you their phone number or trying to chat you up? Nothing like that?
No, not really. Every now and then, but no, not really. Usually my husband's with me and they usually can kind of figure out I'm not interested.
Yeah.
And I think also people just sort of realize it's a show.
It's a show. It's entertainment.
Yeah, I'm not, you know, part of the menu or whatever
Right.
just because I'm performing.
Right. So you mentioned the class that you have coming up. What else do you have coming up?
So I'm teaching level 2 fan dancing at the Burlesque Academy on June 23rd. I'm going to be performing in Chicago at Untitled Supper Club and the Drifter.
Okay.
July 26th and 27th. And then I have a show with Envite on the July 28th.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a lot of traveling.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a lot of traveling. I guess you're flying mostly to these places?
Well, Chicago, yeah.
Yeah. And how do you bring all of your stuff?
Oh my God.
You must have like a steamer trunk full.
I do. So I have since gotten a lot smarter. When I first started, I had this I still have this act, but I have this act where I have like a saddle attached to a short step ladder, essentially. So I can climb up on it and I can sit on it and ride it and like tassel twirl while I'm on top of it. It's fun. I need to drive that act anywhere. And I have since sort of learned to think about like standard checked luggage size is this. If I want a prop, it has to fit in there. And so I've gotten much smarter. So I'm traveling to Chicago, and of course they booked this act with like I do stuff where I flip over a chair. So I have to bring my own chair, and they booked an act with like giant fans. I'm like, okay, well I'll be checking 2 giant bags, but I can get there.
Yeah. So your husband will do the traveling with you then?
Sometimes, yeah. He's not coming with me to Chicago,
Okay.
but yeah, usually when it's like a driving kind of situation, he'll come with me.
Yeah. When you get a show, are you like, all right, I want to test out this new costume or this new routine?
No.
Will you you don't like make him sit through it to give you some pointers? No?
No. One, I don't trust his judgment.
Okay.
I don't trust his opinion. And 2, I kind of need everything to be completely finished before I show anybody. And I do solicit feedback, but it's usually from like one of those people that I really trust, like Eerie Twilight or Dottie Riot or one of those folks. I'd be like, watch this and, you know, does this look awkward? What do you think about this color combo? How else should I fasten this? Like, I will ask them all those technical things, but my husband... And like, I will sit there and, you know, while we're in the evening, like just hanging out, I'll be like, okay, I'm trying to figure this out. What do you think of this? And he just looks at me like, why are you, I don't know. Why are you asking me this?
Yeah. Sometimes we just like to hear ourselves.
Yes.
You're going through your own process and talking through it in your own head.
Exactly.
And they're just there, you know, as just the sounding board. Not that you necessarily want their input, but, you know, I do that to my husband all the time. And he'll say, well, why did you ask me? I'm not really asking you. I'm just thinking out loud, you know?
My husband does help. He makes a lot of my mixes.
Okay.
So I do a number to After Hours by the Weekend, and that song's really long. It's like 6 minutes long. And most burlesque acts are somewhere between like 3.5 and 5 minutes.
Okay.
So I had to get him to edit down to 4 minutes and not have it sound crazy. And he did it. And like, it took so much time and so much of us going back and forth and being like, wait, this part matches up with this part so we can chop it. But,
well, that's good.
Yeah.
I mean, you sound like you have a really supportive,
I'm very lucky.
really, really helpful
Yes.
husband. So
Yes.
yeah, you are very lucky.
I am.
So when you're coming up with a routine, you probably have some routines that you probably recycle,
Sure.
but then, and you know, some moves, but you know, what's that process like for you when you're trying to do something that, you know, it's just a little bit fresh, or you want to bring something new to the table?
So, yeah, that's a constant thing there. I'm trying to like expand my bag of tricks. So I'm not just constantly doing the thing where I stocking peel with my teeth or anything like that. And so it's kind of two-pronged. Like if I'm trying to come up with an actual like routine, I usually start with the music and then sort of build around that.
Okay.
But then I also try and work on like general skills and try and learn other movements and essentially peels and tricks that I can throw in. And then I try and think about how I can incorporate those into routines.
Gotcha. Where do you practice? Do you practice like
My bedroom.
in your room? Okay. I didn't know if you had like a little studio
No,
somewhere in your house.
I go to the Burlesque Academy sometimes to use their like actual good rehearsal space.
Okay.
But that's sort of impractical to do on a super frequent basis. So,
Sure.
in my bedroom, we've got a couple of big mirrors on the dresser, and I call it good.
Yeah. So you keep talking about the Burlesque. Is it Academy?
The Philadelphia Burlesque Academy.
Tell me about that.
So it is a local academy run by Ginger Lee. She's headmistress, and I don't know how long it's been going. I think it's like at least 10 years.
Wow.
And they have classes in all sorts of things, you know,
Okay.
general act development, general movement, and then specialty things like stocking peels, fan dancing, twerking.
Twerking.
Yes.
Have you ever done an act where you're on stage with another dancer? Or is it always
Yes.
just you?
Yes. Dottie Wright and I have done a duet.
Okay.
She played a lonely housewife who was home bored, and I get delivered as sort of a sex toy.
Okay.
And then she dresses me up in fetish gear, and then we both run off into the audience and beat people with like spanking implements.
Right.
It's very silly.
Okay, that's pretty cool. I mean, because you were talking about, you know, when how just the amount of grace that you have, it's limited.
It is.
I was wondering how that works if someone else is up there with you. That's a whole nother level.
Yes. And like Dita Von Teese always says she's not talented enough to be a chorus girl.
Okay.
And that's me. Like nobody can tell if I misstep when I'm the only one on stage.
Right.
So that's sort of a security blanket, even though it might seem like the exact opposite. but
Yeah,
it
very true.
definitely is.
Very true. So when you are explaining or telling someone what you do, how do you describe that? Like, what's the preferred terminology?
I would just say I'm a burlesque performer.
Burlesque performer.
I don't like to say I'm a burlesque dancer because I
Okay.
am not a dancer.
Burlesque performer. Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. So boas, fans, stockings, the tassels. I've seen a couple of your outfits. They've got what is that? It's like, I don't know.
corset.
But it's got like something fluffy or
Like
feathery.
sort of a bustle with
A
like,
bustle, that's the word I'm looking for.
with like a lot
Those
of
are
feathers.
cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so your different friends will make that as well, or do you
I've
add
made those.
You
Yeah.
do. You make
Yeah.
those. Okay. And so you do thrift?
I do.
Yeah.
Yes,
Thrifting is fun,
constantly.
right?
Yes.
Do you thrift your regular clothes?
Oh yeah.
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 Where are your favorite thrift spots?
Philly AIDS Thrift.
What is it?
Philly AIDS Thrift.
Oh, okay.
It's like half a mile from my house, and I go there several times a week.
Okay. Yeah, I'm finding like sometimes I go to Goodwill.
Yeah.
Estate sales, things like that.
absolutely. I
Yeah,
love
it's Goodwill is
It's a
hit or miss these
lifestyle.
days.
Yeah.
So it's nice to, there's a store that I keep seeing. A friend of mine keeps sending me on Instagram. I think it's called Jinx.
Oh yeah, I've been
Yeah,
there.
have you been there?
Oh, yeah, they have several locations. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they're great.
Yeah, they have some really cool like vintage, just a lot of things that
Yep.
are, kind of fit your
Yep.
your vibe. What's your house decorated like? Is it
Crazy.
Is it vintage?
Oh, it's
or-
all vintage.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm curious.
So, our house was built in 1918.
Okay.
And it's a very like classic Philadelphia row
Yeah.
home. So the first floor is like very mid-century modern. And we agreed when we moved in that house that we keep the nerd stuff upstairs. So it's just art and conversation pieces downstairs. And then you go upstairs and we have our craft room. We have a giant desk where we both work on crafts, and I'm making costumes.
Okay.
And it's just jam-packed with my husband's Legos and his toys, his Transformers, all sorts of nerd stuff. Our guest bedroom is the pink nightmare. It looks like an old lady. Like, it's just crazy. And then our bedroom is like very goth.
Okay. That's very eclectic.
Yes.
But I imagine that you probably would have a lot of, like vintage furniture or just decor, just because I know that, that's kind of like your thing. It fits your whole vibe.
Yes.
What are some challenges that you're facing, I guess, in the industry in which you're working?
Well, constant censorship.
Okay.
Women's bodies are always being policed.
Yeah.
And it's really even getting to the point where it's hard to advertise shows because we can't have anything that suggests anything sexual. And we keep getting lumped in with like sex workers, and nothing wrong with being a sex worker, but
this is different.
I'm not doing porn, And I had a Patreon page for a while where I shared some of my photos, and there was some nudity in there, but that was it. But I'd get lumped in with people who were doing actual like porn.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, well, first of all, if somebody is interested in porn and they come to my page, you're going to be really disappointed.
Right.
So you need some truth in advertising. And two, like, then that was used as an excuse to censor me because it was just lumped in with everything else. So it's getting crazy. I mean, we can't advertise almost anything on Instagram or Facebook or any of the social medias because they just, say anything's risque. Even things that supposedly meet their own standards.
Yeah.
They just restrict and take down.
Yeah.
And it's even worse for like women of color and, larger women. They seem to get it even worse. That's unfortunately how our society works.
Yeah, unfortunately. What about your successes? Give me a couple things that, in your 8 years of doing this that you're just super proud of.
I'm definitely super proud that I won the Kansas City Festival last year. That was huge. I was so excited. Really proud that I get to teach. And I've taught at BurlieCon to people all over the country. And I've taught several times at the Burlesque Academy. Like, that's really gratifying. I enjoy teaching. And I have done it in other aspects of my life. And it's just really gratifying. And I don't know, it's kind of more like an opportunity to share not just like a skill set of doing stocking peels or fan dancing, but some tips of like, okay, this is going to be hard on you, and here are some things that you can do to kind of take care of yourself as you get into this, because there's going to be a lot of pressure, there's going to be a lot of cattiness, there's going to be a lot of ugliness. So here are some things that you should do to prepare for that and to take care of yourself. And that's probably one of the things I'm most proud of.
Yeah. So I know you told me in the immediate future what's next for you. So let's think, few years out, like what are your plans or your goals? What's next for Miss V?
So my goals are to continue creating art that I care about, and so basically numbers that I feel like are representative of me and that I hope people will respond to. I want to keep producing, and I want to keep hopefully encouraging other people who have a real genuine interest to, stay on a good path, treat each other with kindness. There's a lot of people trying to do this, so it's really easy for people to get competitive. And I always want to advise folks that, listen, there's a lot of people who are actually really great at this. The thing that's going to get you bookings and get people to hire you is if you're easy to work with, you're nice. So focus on those things.
I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that you are a veteran. So thank you for your service. Yeah. I guess, does that feel like a lifetime ago, like so long ago?
Yes. I sometimes forget that was me, but yes. And it was something that I kind of struggled with when I first started doing this because the military frowns upon women doing anything that is sexual or involves nudity. And when I started doing modeling, I was like, oh God, what if, And then I finally was just like, I'm not in the military anymore. They can't do anything to me.
Yeah.
And if it makes somebody mad, that's their problem.
Right.
And that's definitely how I feel now. And now it's really funny because people love to introduce me at shows and say that I'm a veteran. And I'm like, that's really sweet. But it's just so ironic because if I was still in the military, they would absolutely kick me out.
Yeah. 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 What about like, so I know your husband is supportive. What about other family?
Well, I'm not really close with my family for other reasons, but his family knows.
You're close with them.
They're super supportive.
Okay.
His sister's been in my shows.
Yeah.
His mom has passed, but she knew I did all the modeling and she loved it. And she gave me like a pair of her gloves. It was really sweet.
That is sweet.
His dad thinks it's really neat. And when I won that festival, he and his wife like stayed up and waited so they could like celebrate with me when they got home.
That is nice.
I have invited him to shows and he's like, yeah, it's too weird. I'm not going to go. I'm like, okay, well, maybe a show I'm not in. He's like, that I could probably do.
Right.
That's fair.
Yeah. Okay. That's all right. Yeah. Fair enough. What's the thing that you're doing for Envoûté?
It is their July 4th, like veterans fundraiser. I do it like every year. It's always a really good time.
Do you have to like come out of a cake?
I wish
anything? I've seen that on TV.
Give me a cake. Yes. So I don't know what I'm doing this year. It's usually with Drew and the live band.
Okay.
But I haven't figured out like what songs I'm doing or if there's a theme or anything like that. I do have a military number, but it's a military fetish number. And I never feel like it's appropriate for that because it's always a little bit more like actual like World War II, like USO.
Yeah.
But you never know.
No, you don't.
I can pull it out sometime.
Oh my God, that's funny. Okay. And where is that being held?
I actually don't know.
You don't know? I just always like to like know what are they doing and what are they up to.
He booked me for it months ago and it was like, I'll let you know what the venue is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, well, that's him.
Yeah. I'm sure it'll be someplace nice.
Yeah. So if somebody wanted to get in touch with you to book you, for entertainment for whatever event that they were having, where would they find you?
They can find me on Instagram at hashtag Miss MISSV pinup model. I also have a website, missvpinupmodel.com, and my Gmail is also missvpinupmodel@gmail.com.
Keeps it nice and easy.
Yeah, nice. It's all the same.
It is, yeah. So are you still doing some of the modeling?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. I just did a bunch of shoots in Vegas and actually a bunch of shoots with the local photographer.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do you do your own like hair and makeup for these shoots? You do?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, the pictures are really cool. I love at holiday time when you posted all of the past holiday cards of you and your husband, and they were themed. I thought that was really cute.
Yes.
That's pretty cool.
I have your address now, so you're added to the list.
Maybe I'll get one.
This year's, we plan them many years in advance, and this year's is going to be a little less wacky than last year. Last year we did a Clockwork Orange. My husband was like, you are a psycho for mailing that to your coworkers. And I was like, you mailed it to your grandmother.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's either fine or it's not.
So does he get input on the holiday card? He does. Okay.
He gets really into it.
Okay.
We take no photos together. We don't even have like photos from our wedding.
Really?
This is like the one time we take photos together and we make a big deal of it. We get costumes made. We build sets. Book a professional photographer.
Yeah.
And he gets really, really into it.
Where do you take these pictures at?
Usually somebody's studio.
Okay.
Sometimes out in the wild.
Out in the wild, yeah.
Where's one where we recreated a music video from My Chemical Romance and we needed a T-bird. So our friend found us a T-bird.
Wow.
And we had the costumes. We have laser beams.
Yeah, they're pretty elaborate.
Yes.
The pictures that I saw. I was like, wow, they really do. They go all out.
We got really tired of getting cards with just pictures of our kids' friends.
Yeah.
And we were like, hey, I'm happy to see your kids, but I'm friends with you, not your 4-year-old.
Right.
So maybe you could be in some of the photos. So we were like, we're going to show them how it's done.
Yeah. Oh, I can't wait to see what it is for this year.
It's a surprise.
All right. So I'm going to go back to the question that I asked you at the start. Yes. So if you could come up with a signature drink, again, it can be a mocktail, doesn't have to be alcoholic. What would it be?
Yeah.
And, like ingredients, maybe a couple ingredients.
Okay.
What would you call it?
Okay. It's going to have to be my favorite cocktail, which is a Manhattan.
Okay.
And
fitting.
Yes, I'm just going to call it an imperfect Manhattan because I don't know if anybody's familiar with Manhattans, but a perfect Manhattan is when they make it with bourbon or rye and then a mixture of sweet and dry vermouth, which is disgusting. It is disgusting. It is an abomination of a drink. So a real Manhattan is made with bourbon or rye and then sweet vermouth and then usually bitters and a little bit cherry. I am personally all about the bitters. So it would have to be like a fancy bitters.
Okay.
There is actually a company that makes a burlesque bitters. So that could go in there.
I love it. And it's perfectly fits you.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is truly my favorite cocktail is a
Okay.
Manhattan.
I've never had one.
Really? Okay.
No.
I'll make you one next time we're at an event
Yeah,
together.
never had one. I just tried gin.
What?
Yeah, I know, right? So
How are you at events? and
I
you've
know
never-
I like martinis, but
Okay.
I've only ever had vodka martinis.
Okay.
Never actually had a gin martini.
What about a Vesper? It's gin. It's sort of like a mixture of a gin and a vodka martini.
Okay.
It's like gin, vodka, and a twist of lemon, and it is delicious.
I'm gonna have to try it.
Yes.
Good. I do get a headache after, but I get headaches often.
Okay.
And I don't know if I have not pinpointed. I have to drink more gin, I guess. I haven't pinpointed whether it's the gin or just, a random headache that day. I'm just not sure.
It's probably the gin.
Yeah, it seems like every time I drink it, I do so. But I'm going to have to do a little
You will.
experimentation and find out, is it the gin? But yeah, now I'm on gin now. So I have not ordered a gin martini yet when I'm
Okay.
out. So
to
I'm
do
going to
it.
do that.
Do it.
Yeah, I'm going to
Or
do
get a
that.
Vesper.
Okay, a Vesper.
That's probably my second favorite cocktail.
All right, I'm going to try that.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, I am so glad that you sat down with me.
Thank you for having me.
You
This
look
has been really
completely
fun.
stunning.
Thank you.
As always. It was great having you.
Thank you for having me.